The story begins with a young English solicitor named Jonathan Harker traveling away from his home in England toward the distant and mysterious land of Transylvania. He is on a business journey, sent by his firm to meet a nobleman known as Count Dracula, who wishes to purchase property in England. At first, Jonathan is excited about the opportunity, seeing it as an important step in his career. But as he travels farther east, the world around him begins to change in ways he cannot explain. The cheerful towns and familiar comforts of Western Europe slowly fade, replaced by wild landscapes, towering mountains, and deep forests that seem endless and ancient. The people he meets grow uneasy when they learn of his destination. Some try to warn him, their voices trembling, while others silently hand him small protective charms. Though Jonathan feels a growing discomfort, he continues forward, believing these fears to be nothing more than superstition. As he reaches the final village before the castle, the atmosphere becomes heavy with fear. The innkeeper and his wife plead with him not to go. They press a crucifix into his hand, urging him to keep it close. That night, Jonathan sleeps poorly, disturbed by strange dreams and distant howls that echo through the mountains. The next evening, a dark carriage arrives to take him to Castle Dracula. The driver speaks little, his face hidden beneath a wide hat. The journey is fast and silent, broken only by the sound of wolves howling in the distance. At times, the wolves come so close that Jonathan can see their glowing eyes in the darkness, yet they do not attack. Instead, they seem to follow the carriage, as if guided by some unseen command. When Jonathan finally arrives, he stands before the castle, a massive structure rising from the rocks like something from a nightmare. The heavy doors open slowly, and Count Dracula himself greets him. The Count is tall, pale, and unnaturally thin. His face is sharp, his nose pointed, and his lips red against his white skin. His eyes seem to hold a strange light, both intelligent and dangerous. When he takes Jonathan's hand, his grip is strong, but his skin is cold, far colder than any living man should be. Inside the castle, everything is quiet. Too quiet. The rooms are grand but dusty, as if untouched for years. There are no servants, no sounds of life. Only the echo of their footsteps follows them through the halls. During their first evening together, Dracula speaks politely and at length about England. He asks many questions about its people, its customs, its cities. He seems especially interested in London, in how people live, how they move, how they think. Jonathan begins to feel that the Count is studying him, not just listening. As they talk, Jonathan notices something strange. When he glances toward a mirror in his room later, he remembers there was none in the dining hall. In fact, as he begins to pay attention, he realizes there are no mirrors anywhere in the castle. The following days pass in a strange pattern. Dracula appears only at night, always calm, always controlled. He insists on handling Jonathan's meals himself, though he never eats. Jonathan begins to notice that the Count's eyes linger on him in a way that feels unsettling, as if he is observing something more than a guest. One evening, while shaving in his room, Jonathan accidentally cuts himself. A drop of blood appears on his chin. In that instant, Dracula suddenly appears behind him, so silently that Jonathan had not heard him enter. The Count's expression changes completely. His eyes blaze with hunger, and he reaches forward, gripping Jonathan with frightening strength. For a moment, it seems as though he is about to attack him. But then, His gaze falls upon the crucifix around Jonathan's neck. Instantly he recoils, his face twisting with anger and fear. Without a word, he turns and leaves the room. From that moment on, Jonathan's fear grows stronger. As he explores the castle, he begins to realize that he is not free. Doors are locked. Windows are too high or too dangerous to escape from. He tries to find a way out, but every path leads him back to the same realization: he is trapped. One night, unable to sleep, Jonathan looks out of his window and witnesses something that fills him with terror. He sees Count Dracula emerging from a window, not walking like a man, but crawling down the castle wall headfirst, his cloak spreading around him like wings. His movements are unnatural, like a creature of the night rather than a human being. Another night, Dracula invites Jonathan to sit with him longer than usual. The Count speaks more openly, though his words are filled with strange hints of darkness. He speaks of ancient times, of battles and blood, of lands conquered and enemies destroyed. His voice carries a strange pride, as though he himself had lived through those distant centuries. Jonathan begins to suspect that Dracula is far older than he appears. The terror reaches its peak when Jonathan, exploring a forbidden part of the castle, enters a room where he encounters 3 women. They are beautiful beyond words, but there is something deeply wrong about them. Their eyes burn with hunger, and their smiles are sharp and cruel. They approach Jonathan slowly, speaking softly, as if trying to lull him into a dream. He feels himself growing weak, unable to resist them. One of them leans closer, her breath cold against his skin, her lips nearing his throat. Just as they are about to attack, Dracula appears. His anger is immediate and fierce. He drives them away, declaring that Jonathan belongs to him. The women retreat, but not without promising that they will have their turn. After this, Jonathan knows the full truth. He is not a guest. He is a prisoner, and worse than that, he is prey. As days pass, his strength begins to fade. He sees boxes being filled with earth, strange preparations being made. He realizes that Dracula is planning to leave the castle and travel to England. Desperate, Jonathan begins to search for a way out of the castle. He risks his life by climbing along the high walls and exploring forbidden parts of the castle, hoping to find an escape. But every attempt only shows him how trapped he truly is. The doors remain locked, the heights are deadly, and there is no safe path to freedom. With each failed effort, he realizes that escaping the castle will not be easy, and that he is completely at the mercy of Count Dracula. Meanwhile, far away in England, Jonathan's fiancée Mina waits for news of him. She is worried but tries to remain hopeful. She spends time with her dear friend Lucy Westenra. Lucy Westenra was a kind and beautiful young woman who was loved by many. She received proposals from 3 men: Arthur Holmwood, Dr. Seward, who runs a mental asylum, and Quincy Morris, an adventurous American. But she chose Arthur, and soon became engaged to him, while the others remained her loyal friends. Lucy's life soon takes a dark turn. She begins to suffer from strange symptoms. She becomes pale and weak, and she sleepwalks at night, often wandering outside without remembering it later. Mina notices these changes and grows concerned. At the same time, Dr. Seward is dealing with a troubling patient named Renfield. Renfield behaves in a strange and disturbing way. He eats flies and spiders, believing they contain life that he can absorb. He speaks of a master who is coming and grows agitated at certain times, as if responding to a distant presence. Lucy's condition worsens, and no ordinary treatment seems to help her. Dr. Seward calls upon his mentor, Professor Van Helsing, a man with deep knowledge and experience. When Van Helsing examines Lucy, he immediately senses that something unnatural is happening. Despite their efforts to protect her, Lucy continues to weaken. She loses blood night after night, though no wound can be found. Van Helsing begins to suspect the truth, that Lucy is being attacked by a vampire. As all this unfolds, Jonathan Harker struggles to survive in Dracula's castle. He grows weaker and more desperate with each passing day, realizing that he is nothing more than a prisoner waiting for his fate. And far away, the shadow of Count Dracula slowly spreads across England, bringing with it fear, mystery, and death. As the days pass, the strange illness that grips Lucy Westenra becomes more severe and more frightening. Professor Van Helsing becomes increasingly certain that something unnatural is at work. Though he does not immediately reveal his full thoughts to the others, he begins to take unusual precautions. He places garlic flowers around Lucy's room, hangs them by her windows and doors, and even makes her wear them around her neck. To the others, this seems strange and almost foolish, but Van Helsing insists that it is necessary. For a short time, Lucy appears to improve. Her color returns slightly, and her breathing becomes calmer. But the relief does not last. One night, Lucy's mother, unaware of the importance of the garlic, removes the flowers from the room, believing they are unpleasant and unnecessary. That very night, Lucy's condition worsens drastically. She is found in a near lifeless state, her body cold and her pulse faint. Van Helsing and Dr. Seward do everything they can to save her. Blood transfusions are given, first from Arthur, then from others who care deeply for her. Each time, she seems to recover briefly, only to fall back again into weakness. It is as if something returns again and again to drain her life away. As Lucy grows closer to death, her behavior begins to change in unsettling ways. At times she speaks in soft, strange tones, as if she is no longer entirely herself. Her gentle nature seems to twist into something darker, something distant and unfamiliar. Finally, despite all efforts, Lucy dies. Her death brings deep sorrow to all who loved her, but Van Helsing does not allow them to rest in their grief for long. Soon, reports begin to spread throughout the area. Children are being attacked at night by a mysterious woman. They describe her as beautiful, with glowing eyes, and they call her the Bluffer Lady, a child's mispronunciation of beautiful lady. The descriptions disturb Van Helsing greatly, for he already knows the terrible truth. He gathers Arthur, Dr. Seward, and Quincy Morris and takes them to Lucy's tomb. At first, they cannot believe what they are about to witness. When the tomb is opened, Lucy's body is not as it should be. She does not appear to be decaying. Instead, she looks almost alive, her cheeks slightly flushed, her lips full and red. On another night, they return and see her with their own eyes. Lucy, no longer the innocent woman they knew, moves through the darkness with unnatural grace. She carries a child in her arms, not with love, but with hunger. When she sees Arthur, she tries to draw him toward her, speaking softly, seductively, but with something cold and cruel beneath her voice. It is then that Arthur understands. The woman before him is not truly Lucy anymore. With great pain and courage, he follows Van Helsing's instructions. He drives a wooden stake through her heart, cutting off the curse that binds her. As he does so, her face changes, her expression softens, and for a brief moment, she looks like the Lucy they loved. Then she is at peace. While this terrible chapter unfolds, Jonathan Harker finally escapes from Castle Dracula. Weak, ill, and nearly broken in spirit, he manages to flee the castle and eventually returns to England. When he reunites with Mina, she sees how deeply he has been affected. Though he struggles to speak of what he experienced, he knows that the danger is not over. Mina, strong and intelligent, becomes a central force in what is to come. She gathers Jonathan's journal and begins to understand the truth about Count Dracula. When she shares this with Van Helsing and the others, everything begins to fall into place. They realize that Dracula has left Transylvania and has come to England, bringing his darkness with him. Dracula has taken residence in a place called Carfax Abbey, an old and decaying property surrounded by silence and shadow. From there, he begins to spread his influence. Renfield, the patient in Dr. Seward's asylum, grows more erratic than ever. He speaks of his master being near, of rewards and punishments, of life and death. It becomes clear that he is somehow connected to Dracula. Meanwhile, Mina carefully studies all the journals, letters, and records that have been collected. She reads Jonathan's account of the castle, Dr. Seward's notes about Renfield, and every detail about Lucy's illness. With patience and intelligence, she organizes everything into a clear sequence. It is through her effort that the group begins to understand the full truth. Count Dracula has come to England, and he has brought with him the means to survive and spread his power. Van Helsing explains to the group that Dracula must rest during the day in the earth of his homeland. Without it, he becomes weak. The boxes of earth that were brought from Transylvania are not ordinary cargo, they are essential to his existence. If these boxes can be found and made unusable, Dracula will lose his strength and his ability to hide. With this knowledge, the group forms a careful plan. They begin their search at Carfax Abbey, the place Dracula has made his home. They choose to enter during the daytime, when Dracula is weakest. The building is dark and filled with decay, its air thick and unpleasant. Every step they take echoes through the empty halls, and a deep unease settles over them. Inside, they discover the first of the boxes, large wooden crates filled with dark soil. Van Helsing approaches them with seriousness and purpose. Using sacred methods, he places holy objects inside each box, sealing them so that Dracula can no longer use them as resting places. One by one, the boxes are made useless, but their work is far from finished. Through documents and records, Jonathan discovers that Dracula has arranged for the boxes to be distributed across several properties in London. He has planned carefully, ensuring that even if one location is discovered, others remain available to him. The group now faces a difficult task. They must track each location and destroy the boxes without drawing too much attention. Moving only during daylight, they visit each place in turn. Some are abandoned houses, others are quiet buildings rarely visited by anyone. Each time, they enter cautiously, aware that danger may be near. There are moments when they feel watched, as though Dracula is aware of their actions. Shadows seem to move where there should be none. Doors creak open slightly, and the air feels heavy with unseen presence. Yet they continue, driven by determination. Renfield's behavior becomes even more significant during this time. Whenever Dracula is near or active, Renfield grows restless and agitated. At times, he speaks of his master with devotion, and at other times with fear. Slowly, a change begins to take place within him. As the group continues their work, Dracula begins to sense that his power is being threatened. His safe places are disappearing, and his control is weakening. In response, he grows more aggressive. One night, Renfield suddenly becomes clear-minded. He begs Dr. Seward to listen to him, warning that his master is coming. Before anyone can fully understand, Dracula enters the asylum. Renfield, in a moment of courage, tries to stop him. He realizes at last the true evil of the being he once served. But Dracula is far too powerful. In a single violent act, he strikes Renfield down, leaving him gravely injured. Dr. Seward finds him barely alive. In his final moments, Renfield regains his sanity completely. He speaks clearly, no longer mad, and reveals that Dracula has entered the house and is going to Mina. With this warning, he helps the others understand the danger. Soon after, Renfield dies. The group rushes to Mina, but they are too late to prevent what has already happened. Dracula has forced her to drink his blood, creating a dark bond between them. When they find her, she is terrified but still strong. She feels the connection growing, as if a part of Dracula now lives within her. Van Helsing realizes the seriousness of this. Mina is in danger of becoming like Dracula if he is not stopped soon. Despite this, Mina refuses to give in to fear. She insists on helping the group. Through the connection forced upon her, she begins to sense Dracula's movements. At sunrise and sunset, Van Helsing places her into a trance, and she describes what she feels: the sound of water, the movement of travel, the sense of distance. From this, they learn that Dracula is fleeing England. Realizing that he can no longer remain safely in the country, Dracula begins his journey back to Transylvania. He travels hidden in one of his boxes, protected by loyal servants who are determined to return him to his castle before he can be destroyed. The group immediately prepares to follow. They split into teams, each taking different routes to intercept him. Jonathan and Arthur move with urgency, driven by love and loss. Dr. Seward and Quincy Morris take another path, ready for confrontation. Van Helsing remains with Mina, protecting her while using her connection to guide their pursuit. Their journey becomes a race against time. They travel across land and water, through harsh conditions and unfamiliar terrain. The closer they come to Transylvania, the stronger Dracula's influence over Mina becomes. At times, she feels drawn toward him, as though he is calling her back. Van Helsing takes great care to protect her, surrounding her with sacred objects, and ensuring she is never alone. When they reach the region near Dracula's castle, Van Helsing and Mina go ahead to confront what lies there. The castle stands silent and empty, yet filled with a sense of ancient evil. Inside, Van Helsing discovers the resting places of the 3 vampire women. Though it pains him, he destroys them, ensuring they can harm no one again. Meanwhile, the others continue their pursuit of Dracula's traveling box. At last, as the sun begins to set, they catch sight of it, a cart carrying the box, guarded by men determined to protect it. It was being driven quickly across the rough land by a group of men loyal to the Count to return him safely to his castle before nightfall. Without hesitation, Jonathan Harker, Arthur Holmwood, and Quincy Morris rushed forward to stop it. The men guarding the cart immediately resisted, forming a barrier and attacking fiercely to protect their master. A violent struggle broke out. Knives flashed, and the air filled with shouts and urgency as both sides fought with everything they had. The men fight with everything they have, knowing that if Dracula reaches his castle before sunset, he may regain his full power. Quincy Morris, brave and fearless, pushed forward despite the danger, determined to reach the cart before it was too late. In the chaos of the fight, he was struck by one of the men, receiving a deep and serious wound. Even then, he did not fall back. Gathering his strength, he continued fighting alongside Jonathan, helping him reach the box. With great effort, they reach the cart and force it to stop. There is no time to waste. They open the box. Inside lies Count Dracula, his face filled with fury, his body weakened but still dangerous. In that final moment, Jonathan strikes, slashing Dracula's throat. At the same time, Quincy drives his knife into Dracula's heart. The sun is just about to disappear. For a brief moment, Dracula's expression changes. The rage fades, replaced by a strange calm, as though a long curse is finally ending. Then his body crumbles into dust. The evil is gone. At that very instant, Mina feels the change. The bond is broken. The mark upon her fades. She is free. But the victory is not without loss. Quincy Morris has been mortally wounded during the fight. As the others gather around him, he smiles, knowing that they have succeeded. With peace in his heart, he dies among his friends. In time, the group returns home. The horror they faced is over, but they will never forget it. Jonathan and Mina build a new life together. They are blessed with a son, and they name him Quincy, in honor of the brave man who gave his life for them. And far away, in the mountains of Transylvania, the castle of Count Dracula stands silent, no longer a place of terror, but a memory of a darkness that has finally been destroyed.